bro, you're a creature on earth. You are just an animal on this planet. Interact with other animals. What the fuck are you doing on a block watching how you're supposed to interact with people? What the fuck? I'm outside, and because I live in Canada, I'm so scared that a bear is gonna eat me. But because of my dedication to get this message across, I'm okay to shoulder this possibility of getting eaten by a bear. Our generation is fucked. Like, our generation is just fucked up. And I don't want this video to be like a super pessimistic video, like everyone's just becoming stupider and blah blah blah. I don't want to come across as like really preachy, like I don't go on any social media. Bro, like I literally just scrolled on YouTube for like 2 hours and I don't know what the fuck content I consumed. It definitely affected the way I was thinking, and not in a good way. I genuinely just wanted to share my thoughts on how dumb and how weird I find social media to be sometimes, and how embedded it is in our lives, to the point where like we don't even realize how weird the concepts are, especially when it comes to like girl guy relationship, friendship advice, shit like that. Because I feel like nowadays it's so easy to just like pick up your phone and start scrolling. It kind of replaces human interaction in a way, because you get to see other people. It's like a pseudo human interaction thing. But what happens then is that more and more people are just on their phones and on social media, and less people are talking to actual people in real life. That means that we get a lot of our perspective from these social media platforms, and in a sense this like augmented reality that's shown on our phones is affecting how we live our lives in actual reality. It's really interesting because I've not been on TikTok for like I think 2 years, so like I never heard this term girls girl and guys girl until like I think someone said it, and I was like, okay, yeah, like sure, that could make sense. But it's just like people trying to categorize people and putting people in these very distinct categories, and it's just really weird actually if you take a step back from it and you just look at it, and then it's just like, what the fuck even is a guy's girl? Like actually, what the fuck is that? And I'm telling you, like it really affects the way you live out your actual life, which is just concerning. Because normally I walk down the street, I see a girl, she's surrounded by 5 guys, there's no thoughts that pass through my head. I'm like, okay, cool, there's dudes around a woman. But after I go on social media, after I watch a bunch of like TikTok or whatever, I see that in real life and I start thinking, that's a guy's girl, that's a pick me. But bro, I would never have had these thoughts if I just didn't go on social media. Like that's what's crazy to me, because these videos are constantly being shown to me, and like I just brainwashed to think in this certain way. Try to explain to like a person who hasn't been on social media what the fuck a guy's girl is, what the fuck a pick me is, alpha, sigma, literally the entire Greek alphabet at this point. There's no nuance. That's my issue as well. There's just no nuance anymore. You're either this or you're either that, and there's this and there's that. And a lot of it just comes from like people liking to watch those videos because like they feel like they're on a moral high ground. It's like, oh, okay, like at least I'm not a pick me, like I'm a girls protect girls person, I'm a girls girl, whatever. Like I'm not saying I'm exempt from this. I'm also like this. Like sometimes I watch those videos and I'm like, thank God I am not a pick me, or like thank God, you know, it gives you this sense of like validation almost. It's like when you see those videos of like extreme archetypes of people that don't even really exist that way in real life, it just feels almost good to like shit on someone else because you're on that moral high ground. And I think that's a lot of what social media is nowadays. It's so weird because like all of our social interaction is almost being replaced by these videos. Instead of going out with your friends or instead of actually talking to a human, you just go online, you watch social experiment videos, or it's like a lineup of girls and a lineup of dudes, and then everyone's judging everybody's outer appearance and everyone's judging the way they talk and blah blah, and categorizing them and calling this person a pick me, calling that guy like a sigma male. Like actually, what the fuck are we doing? I think my issue as well is like sometimes I'm so curious too. Literally the other day I saw this video on my recommended on YouTube that was like how to tell like 7 signs that a girl likes you, right? I was like, okay, that's not even applicable to me, but I was like, okay, let me just click on this because I'm curious. I want to know if this guy knows what he's talking about. But I don't think anyone knows what they're talking about, because I mean, first of all, like when you make generalizations, you're just wrong. Like you're just wrong, because like there's just so many people out there. Like if you're just gonna generalize, these are just the 7 signs that someone likes you, is just so wrong because everyone's different. But basically everything he said just felt wrong to me, and that's just so funny because it's like literally guys will be watching these videos and being like taking notes and like, oh yeah, that's right, and then as a girl and you watch this, it's like 7 signs a girl likes you, and none of them are correct. So many people are consuming content that's just not even applicable to reality, and then it just leads to this sort of delusion. People are just delusional now. Me as well, by the way. Like, I don't want this video to come across as like, oh, I'm better than... No, like, sometimes I catch myself getting brainwashed too. And here's the thing. It's really easy for social media to brainwash you. First of all, because it's literally everywhere. It's just on your phone, and you probably check it a lot, right? And even if you don't, like, everyone around you goes on social media. It's just everywhere. And as well, like, the way the content is presented is very, very brainwashy, especially short form videos, because it's always like the most extreme things that catch your attention, right? So more and more of those like extreme things are gonna be pushed to you, and then, you know, you kind of start seeing the world in these binaries and these very like distinct categories, and it's almost like there's just no nuance left. One of the main reasons why I deleted TikTok actually 2 years ago was the fact that I would scroll on it for like 1 or 2 hours, and then like sound effects would just be repeating in my head. Seriously, like I would hear like the same like exact music in my head, like when I was opening the fridge getting food. And I was like, this is so fucking annoying. Like literally the same sounds are being pushed to you, the same exact ideas. You're just being brainwashed. You know, I was talking to my sister about this, and she was like, people were always easily brainwashed, and back then when people were brainwashed, they thought women were witches, they burned them. And so she was like, maybe now it's not so bad. I feel like to a certain extent that's true, but it's just like the pervasiveness of social media and also the polarization of everything that we're seeing that's just severely concerning to me. I think it's so much better to read books by people, or like read papers or read manifestos. There's a lot of steps it has to go through for the idea to be finalized, and it's also conveyed in a form where it's like very slow to digest. Like you're digesting it bit by bit, and that gives you time to reflect on it. And also as well, like looking at the different ways that philosophers approach different concepts. It feels like you have more agency in your thought, right? Because you're being introduced to various ways of thinking, and you have more room to formulate your own ideas. Whereas for social media, it's like the ideas are coming to you instead of sitting at a buffet of knowledge, and like you can like, oh, I'm gonna eat the chicken, I'm gonna eat the broccoli, or well, I've never tried this dish, like let me just try it. It's more like you're just sitting at a conveyor belt, and there's just food coming to you. It's just coming to you, and then depending on like what food you like to eat the most, depending on how clean your plate is afterwards, they feed you more and more of that food. And maybe at the end of the day, all you get are chicken tenders. What happened to the sushi? What happened to the ratatouille? It's just chicken tenders now, and you don't get a choice anymore. And you're gonna start believing that chicken tenders is just the best dish in the world. I'm really trying to be more like hard on myself when it comes to social media. I don't want to become stupider. I think it's making me dumber. No, it's actually just making me dumber, because it's making me think in certain ways that's just not true. Like it's just not true, especially with guy-girl relationships, whatever. I feel like that's like one of our last sources of dopamine nowadays. A lot of things have become less fulfilling in general, and I feel like one of the last things where we can find an abundant well of dopamine from is relationships. And because of that, there's just so many weird like relationship advice things on social media that people will watch instead of actually doing shit. You know, what my mom told me was that like literally action is the best teacher, like experience is the best teacher. And instead of actually experiencing things for ourselves, we're living vicariously through these content creators or through these people who are giving advice based off of their experience, which is valid, which is like sometimes you have to take the advice, but at the same time you can't just sit and take the advice. Like you have to go out and do shit, right? And a lot of times if all you do is like take advice and advice and advice, it genuinely just indoctrinates you into these like weird mentalities depending on where you were kind of leaning towards at the beginning. For instance, if I were like a dude and I was like leaning more towards like red pill, but you know, like people aren't just like red pill and like feminists, and people are just different, right? So like if you were slightly only like this much here, and you could have been convinced to be more like here, but like you were just this much here, the videos that you consume just make you all the way over here, and it's just weird. There will be like two sides, right? There's like the dudes, like the alpha males, like on the podcast, like females. So you have to find a feminine woman and to make this woman cook and clean for you. Getting mogged, I didn't even know what the fuck getting mogged was. What the actual fuck, right? And then there's the other side that someone like me would be more pushed towards. It's more like the dark feminine, make him obsessed with you. I don't chase, like I attract. All these concepts where it's like, okay, yeah, like you can find some truth behind it, like you can Like some parts of it make sense and some parts like you can use in your life, but like a lot of it is just bullshit. Like a lot of it is really bullshit. You have to really go outside and touch grass and like interact with people to realize that there's all sorts of people on earth, and bro, you're a creature on earth. You are just an animal on this planet. Interact with other animals. What the fuck are you doing on it like a block watching how you're supposed to interact with people? What the fuck? Like, it's just so weird how this like fake thing, you know, is like affecting how you interact in the real fucking world. It is just a form of control. I mean, mass media has always been a form of control, but it's more of the fact that it's so polarized now and it's so accessible, and there's just like an abundance of useless information that just like fogs your brain, and also just like continuous sources of cheap dopamine. Whereas before it's like, okay, you read a book like, or you read a manifesto and like maybe you get brainwashed, but it's not even a source of dopamine for you. It's not addicting, right? Like I'm never addicted. Okay, maybe I was addicted to like fantasy novels, but like I'm never addicted to like some dude's manifesto. What the fuck, right? Guys, all I want to say is that social media is genuinely so dumb. It's making everyone stupid. But what I want to emphasize is that it's so important not to be brainwashed by these videos, especially ones that talk about like human relationships. Just go and try to build relationships yourself, because genuinely there will be videos that are like, female friendships are such a lie, girls just like shit talk each other. Then there'll also be videos that are like, don't make any guy friends, all guy friends just want to sleep with you, and yada yada yada, so I just can't have friends. That's basically what you're saying. Like, I just can't have friends, right? So you can't listen to these. Like, you just don't listen to these, like, or at least just have like some semblance of awareness that this does not really apply to reality, because otherwise you're fucked. I'm just trying to read more books, you know, like people actually formulate their ideas properly and they just don't like spout nonsense like what I'm doing right now. Yeah, and as well, like always take advice with a grain of salt. Like even my advice sometimes, like not everything's gonna work for everyone, right? Obviously. So I think it's always important to actually just try to base your actions not off of like a video that you see, but rather from your own thinking. Do more shit in the real world and experience more in the real world, rather than trying to like gauge what the real world is like through a phone, because why don't you just like go outside, right? Life is about figuring things out for yourself and making mistakes and realizing that, okay, this is not the way that I want to live, or this is maybe not the best way to approach this. And something I realize is that the most important lessons, or the lessons that ring the truest and the deepest to you, are the ones that you have learned gradually over time through experience. That being said, I do have hope that people can go on social media less and become less brainwashed, and I do think that they should teach more critical thinking in schools. Anyways, that's all I had to say. It's probably 11 p.m. and I'm really glad I did not get attacked by a bear. Bye.